Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a lovely place, lovely weather, lovely event, and lovely gathering. So it's a privilege to be here with you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues and partners, let me begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the organizers of the ALM Africa Summit for convening this timely and forward-looking platform, and for the honor of addressing me this morning. This summit theme, Africa Forward, powering leadership, investment, and competitiveness. A very, very good theme, very relevant one. This theme is not merely aspirational, it is imperative. It speaks to the urgent responsibility we share to translate reform into opportunity and vision into implementation. Africa stands at a pivotal moment. Our nations are navigating a more complex global environment marked by overlapping shocks, tighter financing conditions, and mounting development demands and aspirations. Yet, despite these challenges, Africa's potential remains extraordinary. Unlocking this potential requires a model of leadership grounded in sound macroeconomic policies, regional collaboration, and private sector empowerment. And really, without private sector empowerment and involvement, I think we will not be able to achieve the aspiration that we are looking for. That is the path Egypt has chosen, deliberately, consistently, and with ambition to do a lot of progress for our continent and for our people. During the past year, Egypt and Egypt Minister of Finance has implemented key reforms anchored in ensuring economic stability, strengthening our institutions, and providing adequate social support that can allow us to move forward with our reforms. Our experience offers key lessons. Let me mention a few. Leadership is tested in difficult times, and to advance critical reforms require leadership, require talking with the people, convincing them, and also showing them the light at the end of the tunnel. We have adopted a flexible exchange rate regime that is working well over the last year. We have been overhauling our public finances and reprioritizing our expenditure and opening the way for private investment. Policy credibility also drives investor confidence. The past year saw a marked return of international capital, FDIs. We have oversubscribed bond issuances, and we have renewed interest across infrastructure, energy, and industrial sector by local and by foreign investors. Private sector leadership is also essential, and this is why we pushed last year significant pro-growth tax reforms. Things that we keep hearing from institutions that tax administration reforms can be good, but they will bring minimal revenues. We were able to increase our tax to GDP ratio by 1% of GDP almost through pro-growth reforms, without increasing tax rate by 1%, but by doing right reforms that encourage people to comply, that encourage people to join, and to encourage people to really be part of the official system in time. Sustainability is integral into also sound policies. We are aligning our fiscal tools with climate goals, something that we all are witnessing. I was last week in Seville, and the weather was incredibly hot, and Egypt was raining. That was a bit completely different context, that you're in Europe in a very hot weather, and in Egypt it was raining. But that's the reality, and we are all facing it. The last 18 months have ushered in Egypt a new phase of structural reforms, focused on strengthening investor confidence and accelerating private sector participation. At the heart of this reform are three pivotal shifts. We are transforming the tax system, as I said, by implementing last year over 20 reform measures, spanning automation, dispute resolution, and broad basing to reduce the cost and complexity of compliance. Secondly, we are structuring our public finance with clear expenditure rules, institutional setups, better targeted subsidies and support, and also continued commitment to fiscal discipline. We are also overhauling our debt management with a strategic focus on extending maturities, reducing financing costs, and improving risk indicators to establish a more stable macroeconomic foundation for investment. These efforts are reinforced by an active divestment program targeting logistics, infrastructure, and manufacturing under a clear and credible governance framework. These reforms are not pursued in isolation. They are shaped in consultation with the business community and supported by international partners, including the IMF, the World Bank, the EU, the OECD, to mention a few, of course, beside our bilaterals. The message is clear. Egypt is serious about building an investment environment that rewards innovation, protects capital, and generates long-term value. Things are working, and we were able over the last months to see exceptional growth in tax revenue by 36% without increasing tax rates for anybody. It's the highest growth rate that we have seen since 2005. We're seeing growth rebounding to around 4.7% in January-March, the last quarter that we have data for. We're seeing FDIs coming back significantly. We're seeing the manufacturing sector growing in double digits and in a very solid route. And we're seeing also private investment picking up and becoming leading the activity in Egypt, with 65% of total investment privately led. We're seeing also our public finance indicators improving. We're almost on the verge of realizing a private surplus of 3.5% this fiscal year that ended last month. These developments are more than cyclical improvement. They are signs of a deeper transformation. Egypt is turning its reform agenda into a more competitive, transparent, and forward-looking investment environment. Our reform experience carries regional implications. As one of the largest economies in Africa and the Arab world, Egypt is increasingly serving as a regional anchor. And I think our continent deserves a lot and can do a lot in the future. We just need to have more collaboration and to really put more effort in bringing our great stories and opportunities to the rest of the world. Egypt can play a role by advancing cross-border infrastructure and co-finance energy projects with neighboring countries. We also support the regional food and energy security through resilient supply chains and trade corridors. And also, we can play a role to be a hub for manufacturing green hydrogen and telecommunication for Europe and for Asia. I think Egypt can be one of Africa's gateways to Europe and to the Arab world and to Asia. Egypt's story is not unique. Across the continent, many countries are embracing necessary forward-looking reforms. But to scale this momentum, we must redefine our competitiveness based on innovation, youth potential, and regional value chains. We need to strengthen intra-African investment corridors. We need to reframe the global investment narrative, amplifying Africa's voice as a reform, investable continent. And we need to rebalance global financial governance to secure fair access to affordable and timely development finance. And we need to have one voice. In closing, let me say a few final words. Competitiveness is not a race among African countries. It is a race against missed opportunity. We are called to lead boldly, collaboratively, and with clarity of purpose. Egypt remains firmly committed to working with our African partners, governments, investors, and institutions to build an economy for our continent defined not just by stability, but by opportunity and shared progress. Africa's future will not be written for us. It will be written by us through policy, courage, regional solidarity, and strategic ambition. Thank you for the invitation and for allowing me to be here today. Thank you so much.